Hey guys, tonight we begin something sacred. You're not just here to fall asleep, you're here to remember something your soul already knows. You're standing before the edge of a mystery older than stars, deeper than oceans, quieter than any silence on earth. Heaven isn't above you tonight, it's around you, whispering softly through the walls of your own spirit. Before you, a veil shimmers like liquid light. It ripples without wind, gleams without flame. You lift your hand slow, reverent, and the fabric doesn't move aside. It invites you in. One step forward, and time forgets itself. You're in a space where breath doesn't matter, where your heartbeat slows to match the rhythm of angels walking on glass seas. The floor beneath your feet isn't quite there yet, it holds you like memory. There's a fragrance in the air, not a scent you can name. Maybe frankincense, maybe rain after 1,000 years of drought. It's the smell of promises God made in Genesis and still keeps today. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Also, tell me where you're watching from, your city and local time. I love knowing where you're tuning in from across this gentle world. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You take your first step beyond the veil. Immediately, something changes. Sound becomes rounder, as if every footstep carries a memory. You're not dreaming. This is too vivid for dreams. You are awake inside something divine. A soft light glows above you. Not from a sun, not from a torch, just from the presence of what's good. The walls shimmer with embedded crystal veins, pulsing faintly like quiet breath. You're in a hallway with no end in sight, but you don't feel lost. You feel found. You reach out to the wall and touch it. It's warm, alive somehow. Not flesh, but not stone either. Some believe heaven's temple was created before Earth's foundation, a place not built by angels, but spoken into being by God himself. Others say it was never built at all, only revealed a structure woven into existence by divine thought alone. And now you are here. Something flickers at the edge of your vision. A movement. No, a memory. The moment Jesus entered here once before the hush that fell across all angelic hosts as he approached the threshold. You're walking the path he once walked. Your feet trace the same silence. A cool draft brushes your skin. It feels like the breath of an ancient promise exhaled just for you. There's a faint hum, almost musical. At first you think it's ambient, but then you realize it's you. You're resonating. Your spirit vibrating with a frequency the world never let you hear. A harmony between your soul and something holy. That's when you notice a curious detail. In the golden dust on the floor ahead, there are no footprints except one pair. Yours. You are the only one who can walk this exact path. You are not a guest here. You were expected. To your left, faint glyphs shine in the air, letters of some heavenly language that don't spell with sound but with meaning. They read themselves into your understanding without translation. One phrase stands out. What you are about to see is remembered by God. You smile. You didn't know heaven could be funny, but here it is, your first celestial inside joke. You're part of something cosmic but personal, vast but intimate. The kind of divine mystery that winks at you and says, "Welcome back." You keep walking. Somewhere ahead, the temple begins to stir. You hear not with ears, but with your being that something is about to greet you. Not a being. Not yet. Just a shift. A ripple. Maybe this is what it felt like when Adam first opened his eyes. Or when Moses saw the burning bush and realized the fire wasn't consuming. It's awe without fear. Wonder without panic. A thought brushes you soft as a feather. You probably won't survive this, unless you've got wings or a direct line to the Almighty. And tonight you do. This is the beginning of your journey into the ancient, the eternal, the hidden. The temple awaits. But first, let yourself melt into this feeling that heaven has opened, not for spectacle, not for doctrine, but to remind you who you are when the world has gone quiet. Step 2 is just ahead, a golden threshold, and a story only heaven could tell. The golden threshold rises before you like the edge of a dream, too sacred to speak aloud. You don't remember walking closer, but suddenly it's there, towering, glowing, humming softly. with something deeper than music. The doorway stands twice your height, framed in a metal that isn't quite gold and not quite anything Earth knows. It pulses gently with a light that breathes in and out like the chest of a sleeping lion. You reach out not to push, but to listen. The surface is warm, almost yielding, like it could read your thoughts and approve or decline entry based on your intentions. No lock, no handle, just a question without words. And then it opens, not outward, not inward, but through itself. A ripple in the air like light changing its mind. And you step across the line where eternity begins to remember you. Inside the world hushes. You're standing in the threshold hall, a place scholars and mystics have speculated about for centuries, but never truly described. Some ancient rabbis called it Sha'ar Zahav, the gate of gold, believing it was the entryway through which souls pass at death. Others argued it was never meant for the dead, but for those who walk with God while still breathing. You are beginning to understand why they never agreed. The floor beneath your feet gleams like wet marble, yet it makes no sound when you walk. Columns stretch into the high, unseen ceiling, each one uniquely carved. You stop to admire one. It's not just sculpted, it's alive. Its surface moves slightly, almost like it's remembering something you once prayed during a thunderstorm as a child. It recognizes you. A sudden thought crosses your mind. How many have walked here before me? A voice not loud, but certainly not your own answers gently. Only those called. You glance around. No one visible. But the voice wasn't meant to be heard with ears anyway. As you walk deeper, you notice that the air thickens, not like fog, but like meaning. Every step holds weight, not burden. Significance. And then you notice the patterns on the columns. One depicts waves parting a scene of the Red Sea. Another, a blazing chariot in flight, Elijah's ascent. Another shows a man bowed low, clutching a lion's mane, Daniel perhaps, or maybe a dreamer no one wrote about. Each pillar tells a story, but they whisper them, never shout. Then you come to the central pillar. It's different. It bears no carving, no scene, no symbol, just smooth, radiant stone that reflects your image, not how you look, but how you feel. And inside the reflection behind your silhouette, a figure walks, robed, barefoot, wounds still visible in the feet. Jesus. He's not looking at you. He's looking ahead toward a distant chamber, but his pace is deliberate, reverent. You realize this is the path he once walked. This threshold is where he returned post-resurrection to the temple not made with hands, not the one in Jerusalem, not the one torn down and rebuilt, but the true temple beyond the veil of human comprehension. Some believe this temple is referred to in Hebrews when Paul speaks of the greater and more perfect tabernacle not made with hands. Others argue it exists symbolically, a metaphysical place representing union with God. But standing here now, you know it's real. It breathes, and you are inside it. The air shifts again. From behind a nearby column, something steps forward. Not menacing, not sudden, just there. A being of light, tall, unreadable wings, folded like pages of a book. Its eyes are not eyes, they are galaxies, spirals of thought and devotion. It does not speak, but you know this is the gatekeeper. Its job is not to block, but to discern. You feel no fear, only a strange transparency, like your soul is showing its report card, and there's no hiding your doodles in the margins. The angel doesn't move closer. It simply tilts its head, slightly curious. Studying. A pause, then. You may pass. Not in words again, but in feeling. The kind of permission that only comes when your spirit is aligned with something ancient and unshakable. Before the gatekeeper steps back into its sacred watch, it gestures to the right, a barely noticeable archway. You nod, almost bow, and turn toward the direction it indicated. The moment feels big. Bigger than anything you've experienced, and yet not loud. Sacred things rarely are. As you approach the arch, you hear a subtle shift in sound, like walls breathing, like thousands of paper pages rustling gently all at once, a harmony of memory. You stop for just a moment at the edge. One last glance behind. The gatekeeper is gone. The threshold hall begins to fade and glow, dimming as though saying, This part of your journey is complete. You cross through the arch. Your foot touches a new kind of ground, softer, more responsive, like walking on a field of prayer. You are deeper now, further in. Closer to what Jesus once touched, wept for, and waited to reveal. The ancient temple waits ahead, its halls already whispering your name in languages lost to earth. The archway closes behind you without a sound. You don't hear a click or a thud or any finality, just a shift, like a curtain swaying, when a secret has passed through. Already the air ahead is different, more focused. You've entered a narrower hall now lined with stone that isn't stone. The walls seem to move ever so slightly, like the surface of still water nudged by distant thunder. You pause instinctively. There's someone ahead. Or something. It stands at the far end of the hall, tall, perfectly still, cloaked in a robe that flows like mist, but glows from within. As you approach your steps slow, without your asking them to. Not from fear, but from reverence. The closer you draw, the more clearly you see its face. Or rather the absence of a face. Where features should be, there are stars, galaxies, turning slowly in silence. This is the gatekeeper with eyes like stars. Not the same as the one before. This one is older, or younger, or beyond either word. You realize it doesn't guard a door or a room, it guards understanding. You won't pass it by walking. You must be recognized. No words are spoken. Instead, something like a question appears in the air between you. Not letters, not even thought, just pure inquiry glowing faintly. Why have you come where even angels pause? You open your mouth, but nothing comes. You don't know what to say, but your heart does. The answer pours out without forming in language you came to remember. To see where he walked, where he paused. You came not to take, but to witness. And in that instant, the being nods slightly, if that's even what it is. One hand lifts long and luminous. It points to the floor in front of you. You look down. There's a circle etched into the stone. Inside it, a single feather, white, glowing faintly, resting on nothing. Just suspended in air. You realize this is your passage. This feather is not just a sign, it's a scale, a measure of burden. If your heart carries more weight than it should, the feather will fall. You breathe in, deep. The air here tastes like old psalms and unshed tears. You step forward into the circle. Nothing happens. Then very slowly the feather drifts upward, not down. Your heart is light enough. You've been seen. The being steps aside, not with its feet, but by parting light around itself, opening space where none was before. You walk forward past it. You feel no pride, only awe. You didn't earn this. You were invited. And as you pass, a quiet truth forms in your mind. Some believe heaven has fixed rules for entry, specific prayers, rites, checklists. But here in this ancient place, it's not about what you've done. It's about what you hoped for in silence. That silent hope weighed more than gold. You smile, and the corridor ahead widens. The walls begin to change. They no longer resemble stone or water or anything physical. They become stories, living murals that shift as you move past them. On one side, the Garden of Gethsemane, but not as a painting. It moves. Jesus prays, and the trees lean toward him, their branches trembling. On the other, Jesus in the wilderness. But he is not starving. He is glowing. And a serpent watches from afar, uncertain for once. These aren't scenes for display. They're not decoration. They are memories. The temple itself holds moments etched not in pigment, but in presence. You are walking through the mind of heaven. You laugh quietly to yourself. It's too much to take in, yet somehow it doesn't overwhelm. You think if someone back on Earth asked what heaven looks like, you'd have to say it looks like remembering something you never knew you lost. A soft breeze picks up even though there's no source. It carries a scent that almost knocks you still. It smells like the robes of someone who's held children, fed crowds, wept in gardens, and walked through locked doors after death. The scent of Jesus. He has walked this path recently. Suddenly, one of the murals ahead shifts more boldly. Not a sidewall this time, but directly in front of you. The path curves and the mural begins to open, unfolding like a book that decides you're ready to read it. You stop. In the scene, Jesus stands in front of a great sealed door. His head is bowed. Behind him, an angel kneels, not with worship, but with sorrow, the kind of sorrow that knows it's witnessing something no wing can shield against. Jesus lifts his hand and places it on the door. The mural shudders. Then something astonishing happens. He turns his head and looks straight at you. Not the mural Jesus, not a painting. Him. Eyes like still oceans, not judging, not testing, just welcoming. It lasts only a moment. Then he turns back, walks through the door, and the mural stills again. You stand breathless, and yet somehow at peace. That's when you hear it. Not a voice. A sound like chimes dipped in honey. A whisper made of silver thread. You're ready. You look around, but you know who spoke. The gatekeeper with eyes like stars has vanished. And ahead the hall begins to bend, drawing you toward the next wonder, the whispering pillars, where the prayers of saints swirl in the silence, waiting for your feet to stir them. But that's for next. For now, remember this, your heart was light enough. And Jesus smiled when he saw you. The corridor opens into a vast chamber. At first it feels like a cathedral turned inside out, no roof, yet no sky. The space curves upward in all directions, and the walls don't rise, they ascend. What you see isn't architecture, it's intention carved into eternity. You step forward, and the sound beneath your feet changes. It's no longer stone or marble, it's something finer, like woven glass. Every step sings quietly, like a harp tuned to your heartbeat. And then you see them, the whispering pillars. They tower like trees, but they're clearly not wood. Each one is unique, some smooth as still water, others wrapped in spirals that shimmer like language just out of reach. They seem to stretch forever upward, vanishing into a sky that isn't dark, just distant. Each pillar hums faintly a tone that you don't hear with your ears, but with your spine. You walk between two of them and immediately feel its presence. Not beings, prayers. They move around you like wind in a dream, gentle, sorrowful, joyful, urgent. Some are long finished, some are still being spoken by someone back on earth right now. They're caught in these pillars, not trapped, but treasured. You pause beside one that glows faintly blue. Your hand rises, drawn to it like a magnet to truth. You touch the surface. Suddenly, a memory that isn't yours. A mother alone in a hospital room, whispering the name Jesus while holding her child's hand. Her voice trembles not with doubt, but devotion. You don't see her face, but you feel her love wrap around the name of God like a blanket in winter. You step back. That prayer is still being answered, right now. The next pillar shifts red gold when you approach. This one holds a different prayer, a man deep in a cave, hiding, barely able to breathe. He's saying nothing out loud, but everything inside. His silence was a prayer, and heaven remembered. You're not meant to linger on each one. Just pass through. Let them recognize you, acknowledge you, bless you as you go. Some scholars say the prayers of the saints are like incense rising before the throne of God. Others believe they linger until fulfilled. This chamber suggests a third truth. They become part of heaven itself, living, breathing structures in the divine realm. And then near the center, a pillar sings. Not a hum this time, a melody. A tune you almost recognize, like a lullaby from a dream you had as a child. You turn slowly toward it, drawn like gravity to grace. As you approach, the pillar's surface becomes translucent. Inside, a figure kneels. You. But younger. Smaller. Maybe 8 or 9. Your head bowed beside a bed, whispering a prayer you don't even remember saying. But heaven did. You watch stunned as the pillar records the moment over and over. Not on repeat, but as if the prayer has never stopped. Time didn't move past it. It lives on. You want to reach in, to hug that child, but you don't need to. That prayer was enough. And it's still echoing through the temple, a soft please that became part of God's eternal yes. A soft chuckle escapes you. You can't help it. The whispering pillars aren't solemn, they're playful too. One giggles gently as you walk past, revealing a prayer from a teenager, asking if Jesus liked figs because he once tried one and hated it. You laugh softly, and the chamber seems to glow warmer. There's joy here. Unfiltered, safe, sacred joy. Not loud, but deeply settled. Like old laughter echoing in a house that still remembers its happiest days. You begin to wonder, what did Jesus pray when he passed through this room? Did his prayers live here too? The answer comes not in sound, but in a ripple. One of the pillars, older than the others, glows a soft violet, and something opens within it. A scene. You don't move. You just see. Jesus stands before the pillar, his hands outstretched. No words, just presence. And the pillar responds not by glowing, but by dimming, like it bowed. Then a whisper moves through the air, not from any single pillar, but from all of them at once. He prayed for them. You feel it in your bones. Jesus prayed for the tired, for the doubtful, for those who would never step into a church but cry out in traffic, for the ones who have never spoken his name but somehow live like him anyway. He prayed for you, and this room remembers. Some theologians argue that Jesus' intercession ended at the cross, that his mission was fulfilled and his work done. Others insist he still intercedes eternally as High Priest of Heaven. But this room suggests something even more mysterious, that his prayers became places. They didn't vanish into history. They built rooms like this one. Your chest feels full, like a bottle holding a storm and sunlight at the same time. You breathe in, and every pillar shimmers faintly as if nodding to you. You keep walking. There's one last pillar before the next chamber. This one doesn't whisper or sing. It simply waits. You touch it, and this time it shows you someone else, an old woman sitting alone in a room filled with silence and clock ticks. She's holding a rosary, whispering the same line over and over, "Lord, I am not alone." You don't know her, but now you love her. And when you step away, you realize her prayer brushed against you, just enough to cling to your sleeve like the scent of jasmine after rain. You've reached the end of the chamber. The air still hums, but quieter now, like a choir exhaling. Ahead, a doorway forms not out of wall, but out of sound. It hums into existence, shaped by melody. It leads deeper, always deeper. You turn back one last time. The pillars glow gently in unison, a silent goodbye. And then you step forward, toward the place where Christ's own steps still echo, waiting for yours to follow. You enter the next corridor, and it greets you like a soft inhale. The sound behind you fades, not cut off, but softened like a door closed by someone who doesn't want to wake the baby. You are alone now, yet not. The silence is thick, yes, but it's not empty. It's filled with echoes. You take a step forward and you hear it, a footstep that is not yours. You stop, but the sound continues. Another step, then another. Soft, barefoot, slow. They're not chasing you. They're not leading you. They're mirroring you. You realize quickly what's happening. The floor remembers. It echoes eternity. Every soul who has walked here, every movement, every pause, every moment of doubt or devotion, it's all stored beneath your feet, like a record that never stops playing. You keep walking, and now you hear them, all layered footsteps. Some fast, others hesitant. One pair dances, another kneels. 1,000 footfalls overlapping in one sacred rhythm. But one is different. You stop again. There it is, his. Jesus' footsteps. They come one at a time, each one deliberate, unhurried. You recognize them not by sound, but by how the air responds. When his feet touched this floor, the space around you changed. Molecules rearranged themselves to hold the imprint. It's like the stones themselves wanted to keep the memory alive. You try to match his pace, one step, another, and suddenly your rhythm feels right, as if your feet were meant to echo his. You notice now that the corridor curves gently, subtly shifting like a spiral. The walls begin to narrow, not claustrophobic, just intimate. The space invites you inward into focus, into stillness. And that's when you see them, footprints, not just heard, now seen, etched faintly into the floor like gold pressed into soft clay. They glow, not bright but steady, and they move forward in a line only Jesus could have walked. They don't rush, they linger. One print even hesitates slightly, like he paused mid-step. You pause there too. Something sacred happened at that spot. A breath was taken. A choice was made. Some say Christ returned to heaven after the resurrection and sat down at the right hand of the Father, his work complete. But what if, before the throne, there was a walk, a silent retracing of sacred places, a gentle goodbye to a temple he would one day welcome us into? You move on, following. And then the walls begin to speak, not in words, but in texture. The stone changes under your fingers. One section feels smooth as glass. This, you realize, is where Jesus leaned. Another section bears a faint warmth. This is where he placed his palm. You touch it, and something floods your chest, not information, but feeling. He was tired, not weary in spirit, but in body. The kind of tired that comes after resurrection, oddly enough. A divine fatigue. Not weakness, but the sacred heaviness of having carried all the pain of humanity and now finally being home. You move forward, and the footprints shift again. They begin to split. Two paths appear. You hesitate, but only for a moment. The left path fades quickly as if it was just a test. The right path glows softly and a faint breeze guides you. It smells like frankincense and olive trees. You follow. And suddenly the hallway widens again into a circular space. The floor here is different, darker, smoother, almost like obsidian. The footprints end at the center of the circle. There on the floor is a basin filled with something you can't quite identify. Not water, not oil. It looks like liquid memory shimmering with the color of distant places and forgotten dreams. Floating on the surface, 3 small stones. You kneel beside it. Without instruction, you reach in. You lift one stone. It shows you a vision not in images, but knowing. A moment when Jesus prayed alone in this very chamber. No words, just presence. The kind of prayer that doesn't ask or speak, just is. You replace the stone, careful, reverent. The next stone reveals a moment when he laughed. You didn't expect that, but here it is. Jesus laughing softly, one hand covering his mouth, his shoulders shaking, alone, but not lonely. He was looking at something, perhaps you'll never know what, but in that laugh was joy unbound by gravity. The final stone feels heavier. You lift it, and a sensation washes over you. He wept here, not loud, not desperate, just silent tears. Not for himself, for us, for the ones who still struggle to believe they're worthy of love, even after he gave everything. The kind of tears that echo through eternity without a sound. You place the stone back, and you whisper without meaning to, "I see you." You're not sure if you said it to him or to yourself, or maybe both. Then something moves on the far wall. The footprints, they start again, but now they're paired with another set. Smaller, yours. You didn't leave those behind, but they're here now, running parallel to his, almost like you've always been walking beside him, even when you didn't know, especially when you didn't know. You rise and take the next step, and the walls whisper in agreement. He walks with you still. The corridor narrows again this time, not to confine, but to guide. The walls draw closer like cupped hands, not closing you in, but carrying you gently towards something sacred. Ahead, a pale shimmer flickers like moonlight through water. You walk slowly, as if stepping through the folds of a dream still being written. Then quite suddenly, you emerge into a round chamber, quiet as snowfall and bathed in a liquid glow. At its center rests a wide, shallow pool, flat as glass, still as silence. It stretches edge to edge, so perfectly reflective you hesitate to step closer, unsure if it's surface or illusion. This is the mirror of living water. There is no ripple, no wind. The air hangs heavy and kind. You kneel at the edge, drawn by the stillness. You expect to see your reflection. You do, but not as you are, as you were. You're young again, perhaps 5, maybe 6, eyes wide, a bruise on your elbow, hope in your face, no armor yet, no edits. The reflection shifts, not randomly, but in story. You watch yourself grow. Not like a montage, but like a memory unfolding in real time. The pool doesn't just show your form, it shows your heart. How it flickered, how it ached, how it reached. You see the moment you stopped praying for something, not because it was answered, but because you stopped believing it mattered. You see the time you forgave someone without even knowing why, and the time you didn't. Then slowly the reflection deepens, and another figure appears beside you. Jesus. Not a vision, not a metaphor, just him. No throne, no robe of glory, just a man kneeling next to your memory, watching it with you. His eyes don't judge. They know every decision, every hesitation, every moment you felt too far gone. And still he kneels beside it, hand resting gently on the surface of your life. You don't speak. You can't. This kind of knowing doesn't need words. Then the mirror shifts again. Now it shows something unexpected, not your past, not your present, your intended self. A version of you formed in God's first breath. Unwounded, unworried, not perfect but complete. The you that would have bloomed in Eden, the one heaven still remembers. You feel your chest tighten, not in pain but longing, not regret but recognition. That person is still you. Some theologians speak of the imago Dei, the image of God, stamped upon every human soul. Others argue over how literal that image is, whether it's our capacity to reason or to love. But this mirror offers a deeper suggestion. It is the you. God still holds even when you forget who that is. You lean closer. The reflection shifts again, now showing others. One by one, faces ripple across the water, people you've touched without knowing. Someone you encouraged with a smile. Someone who never forgot a prayer you forgot you even offered. Their lives shimmer like threads connected to your own. And then a final face appears. Jesus again. But this time he's looking right at you, not your reflection. And he smiles. Not the calm, glowing smile from paintings. This one is wilder, brighter, like he knows exactly what you carry and still thinks you're astonishing. Like he's saying, this is the you I see. You try to hold the image, but the water begins to ripple, softly, rhythmically, and you realize the pool responds to breath. Your breath. Every inhale stirs the waters. Every exhale settles them. The living water lives by your presence. You sit back slowly, stunned, full of a quiet sadness and deeper joy. This mirror hasn't shown you what to become. It's shown you what's always been true beneath the noise. And something shifts in you. Not a decision, a remembrance. You rise, and as you step back, the water stills one final time. It holds your current reflection now. No longer a child, not the perfected version either, just you right now. And even that is holy. A soft light appears on the far wall. It outlines a narrow passage that wasn't there before. Of course, this temple doesn't open doors, it reveals them. You walk forward, and just before the passage closes behind you, you turn back. Jesus' reflection remains in the pool, kneeling alone. But you know the truth, he was never looking at the water. He was always looking at you. You walk into a hallway that feels ancient, even by heaven's standards. The air is thicker here, not heavy but charged, like right before a storm. Not the storms you fear on earth, but the kind that make you stand barefoot on grass, just to feel part of something larger than yourself. You sense it instantly. This part of the temple remembers creation. And it's not quiet. There's a low hum all around you, like millions of voices singing at a frequency just beneath hearing. Not music exactly. More like language still becoming music. You move forward and every step seems to release more of it. The walls now are different. They aren't built from any stone or material you recognize. They're alive, pulsing gently, embedded with threads of light that swirl in impossible patterns, forming shifting images that don't stay still long enough to name. And then you see it. A chamber opens to your left, vast and circular. You step in, and the hum rises. You are standing in one of the rooms that remember creation. No furniture, no ceiling, just motion, slow, eternal, like breath caught in time. Along the curved walls, symbols shift and dance. At first they seem random, but then your soul begins to recognize them, not with your mind, but with something older, something planted in you before you were born. You watch as one of the glowing symbols stabilizes into a shape, two Hebrew letters forming a word, Bereshit, in the beginning, and the room exhales. In a sweep of sensation, you're surrounded by images, not like visions, but memories so old they've passed beyond form. The first spark of light, unfiltered and wild. The moment darkness was told to step aside. You don't just see it, you feel what it was like to be creation responding to God's first whisper. Another shape forms this time, not letters, but sound itself. A tone rises from the center of the room, deep, resonant, gentle, as if the voice of God is still echoing, still creating, still singing reality into being. You feel it in your bones, your skin tingles. It's the same voice that called Jesus from the tomb, the same one that held Moses in silence, the same one that told Lazarus, "Come out," and it's speaking now, not to the world, to you. You don't understand the words, but you understand the meaning. I made you, still making you, always will. Theologically, it's debated whether creation was a one-time act or an ongoing unfolding. Some believe God spoke once and it was done. Others say the speaking never stopped, that the breath of Genesis still hovers over the waters. In this room, the truth feels clear. Creation is a song that never ended. And here you are, part of that melody. You walk deeper into the chamber. The ground glows with fragments of celestial memory. You look down and see scenes, a planet forming not with explosions, but with permission. Stars being named like children, giggling into existence. Oceans rolling into shore, learning rhythm from the breath of God. Every image plays not like a film, but a feeling. You feel what it was like to be there, to be part of it. You're not just observing creation, you are remembering it. Then one moment freezes you. A new scene, a garden. You know which one. Eden, but not like the stories say. This Eden is alive in ways words cannot contain. The colors aren't colors, the light has texture, and at the center a figure walks slowly. Jesus. Yes, before Bethlehem. You feel the mystery crackle through the air. Some believe Jesus as the Word was present in Eden, but unseen. Others argue he remained apart until the incarnation. But here, he walks among the trees, gently running his hand along a lion's mane, smiling at an unnamed flower, laughing as a parrot tries to mimic the sound of thunder. He's not correcting, he's delighting. In every vine, every breeze, every creature. You blink, and now he's looking toward you. Again, but not surprised. He knew you'd be here. The scene fades slowly like fog lifting, and the walls of the chamber pulse one final time. That same gentle message washes over you again. You are not made of accidents. You step back toward the doorway. The hum of creation lowers to a whisper like a choir bowing its heads. The room doesn't close behind you. It simply fades. And in the silence that follows, your heart whispers back to heaven, keep singing. I'll remember. The corridor after the chamber of creation narrows to a single thread of soft light, guiding you like a memory. The silence here is different. Not empty. It feels like a library before dawn, pregnant with the weight of what hasn't been said in centuries. You feel the walls drawing breath as you walk. Not to speak, but to listen. You round a quiet bend, and then you see it. A grand doorway, tall, curved like an open scroll, framed by edges that shimmer with quiet knowledge. No guards, no symbols, just an inscription above the arch that reads simply, Heaven's Forgotten Library. You step inside, and immediately the air becomes thicker, not heavy, but rich, like incense for the mind. The chamber stretches wider than your eyes can hold, and higher than reason dares to measure. Shelves float, not attached to walls, but suspended in place by memory and reverence. Some are vertical, others spiral up like galaxies. Some move slowly, gliding past one another in a silent rhythm only heaven understands. There are no ladders, because in this place the books come to you. You walk carefully, your footsteps softened by a carpet of woven cloud and prayer. The light here is dim, and gold glowing from nowhere in particular, yet illuminating everything with ease. You reach out toward the nearest shelf, and a book detaches, drifting toward your hands like a dove returning home. You catch it gently. Its cover has no title. It simply opens, and what it contains is you. But not like the mirror earlier. This isn't a reflection. It's a record. A detailed account not of actions, but of thoughts, decisions, and moments of surrender. Pages filled with things you whispered only once, things you meant to do, things you chose not to. You don't feel judged, you feel seen. And as you read, you realize something astonishing. Heaven keeps track of what you tried, not just what you did, not just what you accomplished, but what you hope to do with pure intent. The book closes gently, sealing without command, and floats back to its place. And from the shelf above, another descends, this one darker in hue, worn at the edges. It trembles slightly in your hand. You open it. The text inside shimmers, then stabilizes. It tells the story of a woman in a coastal village 2,000 years ago. Her name isn't in any Bible. No church was built in her name. But page after page describes how she made bread for widows, sang lullabies to orphans, and lit candles every Sabbath with trembling fingers. One passage stands out, and though the world did not remember her, heaven made room for every kindness she ever gave. You hold the book to your chest, overcome. This library isn't a collection of rules or prophecies. It's a treasury of forgotten faithfulness. Some scholars argue that heaven's records are purely judgmental ledgers of deeds good and bad. Others imagine a more gracious account. But here the truth feels simpler. Heaven remembers what earth forgets. A third book finds its way to you. This one is strange, thin, bound with twine. Inside, scribbled drawings, childlike sketches, stick figures and stars and oddly shaped animals. Then you realize these are prayers children have prayed. One reads in barely formed letters, "Dear God, I'm sorry for saying but at school. Please don't tell Mom." You laugh. The sound echoes gently and comes back to you sounding lighter, happier. This place isn't somber, it's tender. Even God's seriousness has softness here. The shelves move again, and now you notice books you cannot touch. Some glow too brightly. Others whisper to themselves languages older than language. One seems to pulse like a heartbeat. That one you know instantly is about Jesus. You don't reach for it. You simply bow your head. And suddenly a shadow of movement. Not alarming, just presence. A figure in white robes passes silently between the far shelves. Tall, gentle, familiar. He doesn't look at you. Not yet. But you know. Jesus has walked these shelves before. He too has read the stories. Perhaps he even wrote some. A thought comes unbidden. Does he ever reread the ones that make him laugh? The ones that make him cry? The ones about you? The library responds not with sound, but with a warmth that wraps around you like understanding, and you feel it, he does. He reads your story. Often. Then from one final shelf, the library sends you a book bound in deep green. You open it slowly. It's empty. Except for the first line, what you do next will echo forever. You close the book not with fear but with wonder, and as you set it back, the lights in the chamber shift, gently signaling that your time here has passed. You look around one last time. A library with no end, with no dust, with no need for silence, only awe. You step back toward the archway, heart full, mind quiet. As the doorway dissolves behind you, a final thought rests in your spirit. Heaven never forgets what love writes. The hall beyond the library opens slowly like waking eyes. The golden hush of forgotten books fades behind you, and now you enter a space that doesn't invite you to think, it invites you to listen. You don't know why you're holding your breath, until you hear it. The choir, not loud, not showy, just there, gentle, continuous, like wind woven into music. You step forward, guided by the sound. You expect to find an orchestra, a group, maybe a circle of robes and wings. But the room is empty. No singers, no instruments, just sound pouring in from above below, around notes so pure they don't feel sung but born. You stand still in the center of the chamber, trying to place the harmony, but you can't. Because you can't hear this music when you're awake. This is the choir you can't hear awake. Somewhere in heaven, they've always been singing. They sang when the universe began. They sang when you were formed in the quiet of the womb. They sang the day you wept alone and no one saw. And they're singing now not about you, but with you. You feel it. The sound doesn't strike your ears, it brushes your skin. It moves through your lungs. It vibrates along your bones like strings on an ancient harp. And then it shifts. Now instead of hearing notes, you begin to hear names, whispered gently, yours among them. Not shouted, not declared. Sung. Some believe the angels sing only to God, their voices reserved for divine praise. Others imagine choirs of judgment songs announcing war or victory. But this room reveals a hidden truth. They sing for love. They sing for beauty. They sing for you. The chamber around you begins to change with the music. The walls pulse in gentle hues of violet and rose like dawn arriving without warning. And in the light, you begin to see glimpses, figures woven into the melody. One has wings not feathered, but made of folded starlight. Another stands still, humming a single note that causes a ripple of color across the ceiling. They do not look at you. They are lost in the song. But somehow they are also watching over you. A melody begins to rise within you, not one you've ever learned, not one you could repeat. It rises from somewhere deep inside a place buried under years of noise and expectation. The note slips out of your mouth, quiet as a sigh, but it joins them. And when it does, they smile, not with mouths, with light. You are not singing about heaven. You are singing with it. One note, one breath, enough. You notice now that the song isn't always in key. Sometimes a note bends, trembles. That's not a mistake. It's grief. One of the angels has stepped back, hands folded across its chest, singing a note that sounds like mourning. And yet beneath it, another voice lifts it up, not to erase the sorrow, but to carry it. This choir doesn't remove pain, it transforms it, like fire turning logs into light. You close your eyes, and for a moment you hear your own heartbeat as part of the rhythm, a low hum, steady, softened. It reminds you you were never out of tune, only distant, only distracted. The choir never stopped. You were just too loud inside to notice. Now you hear them clearer than ever. They are not celebrating your perfection. They are harmonizing with your return. A line emerges in your mind, unspoken yet undeniable. Even silence sings in heaven. You open your eyes, and now the choir is fading, not ending, just stepping back, giving space for you. The light dims gently, and the room seems to bow. As you turn to leave, the melody lingers in your steps. Every movement now feels musical. You take one last glance behind. No one waves, but you know they're still singing, even when you're gone, especially when you're gone, because some songs are meant to follow you home. You walk on quietly changed. The music clings to your spirit like soft mist fading but never fully leaving. The hallway ahead narrows not into darkness but into focus. The air feels thicker now, denser, like each molecule has something to teach you. And then, just as your eyes begin to adjust to the glow ahead, you enter a chamber that holds no source of light, yet you can see everything. This is the room lit by no sun. The walls shimmer with a gentle pearlescent sheen, but there are no candles, no skylights, no stars. The illumination in this space comes not from outside, but from what it holds. You step in, and immediately the shadows retreat, not from fear, but respect. They part like courtiers in the presence of royalty. This room doesn't feel holy in the grand majestic sense. It feels intimate, like a lantern held between friends on a night walk, like someone pulling a chair close to tell you something they've never told anyone else. You move forward slowly, and that's when you notice what's lighting the room. Intention. You can't see it with your eyes. You sense it with your soul. Every beam of glow, every color that shimmers across the walls, it's not sunlight. It's Jesus' intentions. They linger here unspent, glowing like coals that never go out. You pause. In front of you, a column of soft light floats midair. Within it, a single object, a wooden cup. No markings, no ornamentation, just simplicity. And yet it shines like a crown. You realize almost reverently what it is the intention to serve. Jesus never intended to make himself large. He intended to bend low, to wash feet, to break bread, to sleep in storms, not because he needed rest, but because others needed peace. Some believe that divine light only comes from God's throne. Others argue it comes through scripture, through revelation. But this room offers another thought. Light is the residue of love. Every time Jesus chose compassion, every time he walked away from fame, every time he looked at someone the world had rejected and saw family, the light from those moments didn't vanish. They came here, and they still glow. You move past the cup, and now you see other artifacts in suspended light. A towel, a torn piece of cloth, a small broken sandal. Each one tells a story. The towel used to dry Peter's feet, even though Jesus knew Peter would deny him hours later. The cloth worn around his waist when he embraced lepers, no one else would touch. The sandal split from walking miles just to sit beside someone who didn't believe in him. Yet, none of these items have power. They have presence. You realize something deep and disarming. This room isn't lit by victory, it's lit by mercy. You walk a little farther, and one final object waits in the center of the room. No glass, no protection, just placed there gently, a small piece of wood. You know what it is. But it doesn't look like a crossbeam from Golgotha. It's not stained or sharp. It's smooth, worn from many hands. It looks like it once belonged to a door frame. And the moment your hand hovers over it, you understand. This was from a door Jesus knocked on. Maybe the house of a tax collector. Maybe a woman shunned by society. Maybe your heart. You don't know. You don't have to. You feel its glow, and you realize something quietly earth-shaking. Every time Jesus chose someone, every time he knocked, every time he hoped someone would open, that hope still shines here. It was never wasted, not once. The walls pulse gently like a quiet breath, not rushed, not urgent, just waiting. And you understand the room isn't showing you the past. It's inviting you to carry this light forward. You begin to walk toward the exit, and for the first time, you notice your shadow. You hadn't had one in this temple before, but here, you cast a glow. Because now you're carrying intention too. Just before you leave, the room offers you a final thought, not in words, but in warmth. The brightest rooms in heaven are lit by the smallest acts of love. You pass through the archway, and the light behind you doesn't fade. It follows. You don't need the sun. You've seen what lights heaven without it, and it's already inside you. The next space opens like breath through trees. You feel it before you see it, a gentle rustle, a coolness on your skin, the delicate scent of something green and eternal. After corridors of stone and song, what greets you now is something living. You have entered the temple's garden within. It unfolds slowly around you, vines climbing golden trellises, blossoms blooming in rhythmic pulses, as if breathing with the same rhythm as your heart. It's not vast. It's not wild. It's precise. Every leaf, every blade of grass, every petal placed with divine thought. You step softly. The ground beneath your feet is moss-thick, velvet soft, forgiving. Your soles make no sound. The hush is not silence, but respect. This is no ordinary garden. It is untouched by curse or season. You instinctively look for the sky, but find none. The light here comes from the plants themselves. The flowers give off a glow, not bright, but steady, and the air shimmers faintly like mist kissed by the breath of angels. You run your fingers across a stem and feel memory, not yours. The plant remembers something, a prayer whispered on earth beneath a fig tree, a child holding a petal and laughing before handing it to a gravestone, a vow made by moonlight in the quiet before dawn. These plants have grown from acts of love, not metaphorically, literally. Some believe heaven's gardens are rewards Eden restored, promises fulfilled. But this garden feels different. It isn't made for pleasure, it's made for remembrance. You move deeper. On your left, a vine spirals up a crystal pillar. Embedded in its leaves are soft lights, and as you walk past, they flicker in gentle sequence, like stars winking one by one. You hear something faint in the distance, birdsong, but not any you've heard before. It's slower, deeper, like a dove remembering the sound of God's voice over the flood. And then you see it. At the center of the garden, an olive tree, tall, ancient, not aged by time but by intention. Its trunk is gnarled and silver, its leaves soft like ash brushed in gold. You know this tree without being told. Gethsemane, or rather, the heavenly mirror of it. It stands here not as a duplicate, but as a rooted memory of Jesus' most human night. The place he sweat blood. The place he asked if it be possible, and still chose thy will be done. The ground beneath the tree hums low. As you approach, something shifts in the air, thicker, heavier, like the garden itself is bracing. You're not alone anymore. A figure is already there, kneeling at the base of the tree, back turned, head bowed. Jesus. He is not glowing, not robed in majesty, just here, alone, praying. You stop several paces behind him, uncertain, not out of fear, but because something in you knows this is holy ground even within heaven. He doesn't speak, but you know what he's saying. It's not a repeat of Gethsemane's agony. It's a continuation of its love. He's not pleading now. He's interceding. For who? For someone who just made a mistake and thinks God is done with them. For someone staring at the ceiling tonight, wondering if life still has meaning. For someone who hasn't felt a real hug in years. Maybe for you. He stands slowly and places one hand on the bark of the tree. You see it clearly now, the scar in his palm. And just like that, he vanishes. Not with drama, just peace. And in his place, a bloom. A single olive blossom, fresh and white where none was before. You walk closer and kneel where he did. The earth beneath you feels warm, not because of the sun, because of what happened here. The tree doesn't offer fruit, it offers stillness. You close your eyes, and in that stillness, you hear him again, not aloud but true. I still pray for you. I never stopped. You sit there a moment longer, no rush. Even time itself slows its breath for this. Eventually you rise. You look around the garden once more. Now you notice things you didn't before. A small swing hanging from a vine-wrapped branch. A path of stones etched with unfamiliar names. A pool so clear it reflects not your face, but your hopes. This garden wasn't planted to impress. It was planted to remember what matters. And now it remembers you. You walk to the edge of the garden where a soft arch of lavender petals parts to reveal another path. As you cross through, a gentle breeze brushes your back as if the garden itself is saying, "Come back anytime. I'll keep blooming for you." The petals close gently behind you, their lavender glow dimming like eyelids settling into sleep. Your feet touch stone again, but it's different now, warmer, somehow softer in its stillness. You walk in silence for a few moments, still carrying the scent of the garden. And then, the corridor bends not sharply, but like a stream turning because it knows something beautiful waits ahead. And it does. Because now you step into a space that feels personal. Not vast like the library, not glowing like the mirror, not humming like the pillars, just quiet. At the far end of this humble chamber is a low wall barely taller than your waist made of smooth white stone. At its center, embedded like a heartbeat, is a simple wooden altar. But what draws your attention isn't the structure. It's Jesus kneeling beside it. And he's crying. You freeze, not in fear, but in reverence. You expected glory here, peace, triumph, not this. But there he is. No one else is present. No angels, no chorus, no light show. Just the Son of God weeping in a room where no one ever sins. Because he still feels what it means when we do. He doesn't sob. He doesn't collapse. He just kneels. One hand on the stone, the other over his heart. His tears fall onto the floor, and you realize this room is sacred because of them. This is the chamber of the bloodless sacrifice. You don't need theology to understand it. You can feel it. This is where Jesus brings everything he gave, not the blood, but the choice. The offering not of death, but of continued intercession. Because even in heaven, he chooses us again. Some say Christ's sacrifice was completed once for all. Others say it continues mysteriously in heaven, where he serves as high priest. But in this chamber, you glimpse a deeper truth. Even now, Jesus keeps choosing love. And love, real love, always costs something. He stands slowly, not startled by your presence. He knew you were coming. He turns to you, not smiling yet, just present. And you see it in his face, not sorrow for himself, sorrow for us, for how quickly we forget we are loved, for how easily we run from mercy, for how deeply he still hopes we'll believe it's true. You step forward. He doesn't speak, but the silence between you is filled with meaning. You were worth it, still are, always will be. He places one hand on the altar. It glows faintly, not with fire, with memory, and now the room responds. The walls begin to shimmer with light lines of gold, forming slow, steady images. You see glimpses. Jesus at the well, tired but listening. Jesus asleep on a boat, peace curled into his chest. Jesus touching a man no one else would touch. Jesus laughing with a child, forgetting for a moment that he'd one day die. But one image holds still. You. A moment from your life you'd almost forgotten. A time you failed. When you thought no one saw. When you wished you could take it back. And next to you in the image, Jesus. Not judging, not correcting, just kneeling beside your brokenness the same way he's kneeling now. And you realize this room exists for that moment. Not to erase it, but to redeem it. Jesus turns back toward the altar and you notice something subtle. There are no nails in his hands now, only light, faint and pulsing. The wounds are healed, but the memory of love remains. He walks to the other side of the room and with a single gesture opens a passage in the wall, gentle and quiet. Before he steps through, he looks back at you one last time. And he says softly, "It was never just about the cross. It was always about you." Then he disappears into the light. You walk to the altar, kneel where he did. You don't speak. You don't need to. The chamber already understands. The stone is warm beneath your hand. You bow your head. And you whisper something you've never said out loud. "Thank you for still wanting me." The room doesn't answer. It just holds you like a heartbeat. And somewhere behind the silence, Jesus kneels again, this time for someone else, but also still for you. You rise slowly, reluctant to leave the warmth of that chamber, where even silence held you like a friend. But the temple isn't finished with you yet. The light ahead dims, shifts. A passage reveals itself, tall, slender, marked by nothing but emptiness. No inscription, no angel, just a threshold formed by stillness. You step through. And what meets you is unlike anything before. A long, narrow hallway carved from obsidian-like stone stretches ahead. The walls seem to drink light, not reflect it. You move forward instinctively, your footsteps soft, steady, echoing only slightly as if the space itself doesn't want to be disturbed. Then you notice it. A door. Set at the end of the hall. It has no name, no symbols, no knob. Just a smooth surface so dark it mirrors you, yet not fully. It's as if the door reflects not who you are, but what you carry. This is the door marked with no name. You hesitate. Because this isn't a room meant for everyone. It's meant for those willing to ask the question no one likes to ask. What haven't I faced yet? You lift your hand, but the door doesn't open by touch. It opens by honesty. You let your thoughts rise, the ones you keep buried beneath to-do lists and polite smiles, the doubts, the ache, the question you've never voiced. What if I'm too much for God to heal? And then as gently as a curtain shifting in a breeze, the door opens. No sound, no drama, just permission. Inside is darkness, not evil, not fear, just pure, undistracted absence of anything else. You step in. The moment you do, the darkness begins to hum, low, alive, not threatening. It's the sound of potential, of hidden things. At the center of the room, barely visible, is a pedestal. and on it, a box. You approach slowly, every step ringing louder in the hush. The box is small, sealed, no lock, just waiting. And you know instinctively this box holds something Jesus never gave to anyone else, not because they didn't ask, but because they couldn't carry it. Yet here you are. The room tightens around your breath. You reach out and lift the lid. Inside, a single word, etched in light. It doesn't say love, not hope, not even forgiven. It says yes. You don't understand at first, but then it unfolds inside you. This is his answer to every question you never had the courage to ask, to the "do you see me" whispered in the dark, to the "can you really love someone who still doesn't feel whole," to the "was it really for me?" Yes, yes, yes. Tears rise, not from pain, from recognition, from relief. This room, this unnamed, uncelebrated, unspoken room, is the place Jesus hid one final gift. His full permission to be exactly where you are. You close the box, set it down, and for the first time you feel the room breathe. A warm breeze flows upward, carrying away every weight you didn't know you were still holding. The door opens behind you, and this time you walk out lighter, not because you left something behind, but because you finally believed what was waiting for you all along. You glance back once. The door is already gone, but its echo remains, that yes will follow you the rest of your life. Whether you whisper, cry, rage, or rejoice, his answer won't change. You walk forward, and ahead another chamber stirs awake, one where even angels hold their breath. But tonight, you're the one being trusted to enter. The air ahead stills like the breath held between lightning and thunder. Something has shifted, not outside you, but within. The space before you is open wide, impossibly tall, yet it feels smaller than the last chamber, as if the ceiling leans in to listen. The walls are darker here, less polished. The light is dimmer, more shadow than glow. And at the center of it all stands a figure, tall, still, wings folded tightly, eyes closed, one hand pressed flat against the wall as if he's holding back a flood of time. This is the seraph who would not bow. He's not made of flame like the ones described in Isaiah. No swirling wheels, no multiple faces, just one pair of tired wings, and a posture that speaks of deep sorrow. You don't move. He hasn't seen you, or maybe he has. His eyes remain closed. His chest rises and falls with slow, rhythmic breath, not the kind of breath needed for life, but the kind needed to calm something ancient. You take a cautious step forward. He doesn't stir, but the room responds. The ground beneath your feet pulses faintly like the echo of a memory too sacred to fully relive. The air carries fragments of a story not written in scripture, but embedded in heaven's walls. You begin to see it not with your eyes, but with your knowing. There was once a seraph who stood closest to God, not proud, not rebellious, just conflicted. When the call came to bow before the Son, not the distant word, but the incarnate Christ, he hesitated, not because he couldn't believe, because he couldn't bear the grief. He had seen what earth would do. He saw the spit, the betrayal, the nails, the crown, the loneliness. And for one brief, eternal moment, he broke. He didn't rebel. He wept. And in that weeping, he failed to bow. The other seraphim didn't cast him out. Neither did God. But heaven gave him this chamber, this threshold of sorrow, to stand and remember. You walk slowly closer now. The seraph's hand shifts slightly against the wall, not to block you, to feel you. His eyes open barely. What you see inside them is not defiance. It's regret wrapped in reverence. No voice, no wings unfurled, but you feel his story flood into you like a song long buried in the earth. I did not doubt him. I doubted us. And somehow in this room that makes sense. Because even in heaven, some hearts break when they remember how we treated the one who only ever healed. Some theologians say all angels obey without fail. Others suggest free will among the host, though limited. But here, this seraph shows a different truth. Even celestial beings can ache with the knowledge of what love must endure. And in that ache comes hesitation. You're standing in a holy space, not because it's flawless, because it's honest. The seraph speaks now, but not aloud. His words appear like breath on chilled glass forming in your spirit. He forgave me. I'm still learning to forgive myself. He steps aside, slowly, graciously, allowing you to pass deeper into the temple. But before you go, you reach out not with certainty but compassion and lightly touch his arm. His eyes widen, not with surprise, with relief. You've done what no one else has in this chamber. You didn't judge his pause, you understood it. Because haven't you too hesitated when love asked something more than you thought you could give? The moment softens, the air warms, and the seraph bows. Finally. Not because he's commanded to, because you reminded him that mercy flows in both directions. You step through the next doorway. The light ahead pulses like a heartbeat, drawing you towards something higher than pain, deeper than sorrow. And as the room fades behind you, you feel the faint brush of wings at your back, not lifting you, just thanking you. The air ahead is still but rising. There's no wind, no breeze yet. Something lifts inside you, like the atmosphere itself is stretching taller. The passage narrows again, only this time not to confine you, but to draw you upward. You've reached the base of something not carved by hands or words, a staircase, but not made of stone, not of wood or light or glass. This is the ladder that does not end. It spirals into the unseen, built from something impossible moments. You take one step and feel a memory rise beneath your foot. Not yours, someone else's. A woman feeding her family with the last handful of grain and a prayer. Another step, a soldier laying down his sword for mercy. Another, a man alone in a cell whispering forgiveness for the first time. Each step is built not from materials, but from small, unnoticed acts of courage. You realize slowly that you are climbing prayers. The ladder doesn't sway, it doesn't groan, but it sings softly. A tone rises from it, gentle, ancient, and high like strings made from light. It's not music for ears, it's music for decisions. Each rung is a choice someone once made, and now those choices are lifting you higher. Some say Jacob's ladder was literal, a celestial escalator bridging earth and heaven. Others think it was vision only symbolic of divine communication. But this ladder feels neither ancient nor abstract. It feels alive. Because you're not ascending alone. You feel them around you, not ghosts, witnesses, people who lived and loved and longed before you. A child's soft laughter echoes just behind your shoulder. A father's quiet amen hums underfoot. A grandmother's lullaby swirls above you like a ribbon. These are not saints from stained glass windows. They are ordinary souls whose unseen choices built this sacred ascent. And now, you're part of it. You climb slowly. Each step easier than the last, even though the air thins. Not because you're getting stronger, because you're getting lighter. Somewhere midway, the ladder becomes transparent. You look down. There is no bottom, only a soft haze of memory, choices, and grace. You look up, no top either, just more yeses waiting to be lived. You wonder, will this ladder ever end? And the answer comes in a hush, only when love does. So, never. You pause for a moment and sit on a step made from something too delicate to name. You rest your hand on the rung beside you and feel it hum. A choice you made long ago, small, forgotten, but here it is holding you up. And just below your hand, a new rung begins to form. Not fully yet, still shaping. You realize it's made from something you haven't done yet, a kindness waiting to be lived, a healing you haven't spoken aloud. And already it is becoming part of someone else's ascent. Your decisions matter more than you ever knew, not because of outcomes, because of echoes. Far above you, higher than any ladder should be able to reach you, catch a flicker of movement. A figure, standing at the top, robes caught in windless motion, barefoot, arms open. Jesus, not reaching down to pull you, just waiting, because you were always meant to rise. He doesn't hurry you, he smiles, then vanishes into the light, leaving behind only the sound of one final step forming above you, a note, a promise. You place your foot upon it, and everything lifts, not faster, but freer, not higher, but deeper into heaven's breath. The ladder doesn't end. But your climbing begins to feel like flying, and you whisper aloud just once, "I'm part of this." And the ladder responds with 1,000 unseen voices, "Yes, you always were." Your next step lands not on a rung, but on air that holds. The ladder behind you melts into mist as if it never needed to be there at all. You stand now in a wide, round room that is unlike anything you've seen. It doesn't shimmer. It doesn't glow. It laughs, not with mouths, not with voices, but with joy itself. Welcome to the Hall of Divine Laughter. The very space feels like a smile turned inside out. The floor is soft, not like moss, but like the feeling you get when a friend finally gets your joke. The air tastes faintly of honey and childhood. You breathe it in and feel lighter, not because anything has changed, but because you suddenly remember what joy feels like. Not happiness, not giddiness, something truer. There are no chairs here, just movement, echoes of moments too good to be forgotten. A swirl of light moves past your cheek and giggles like a memory playing tag. You turn and catch a glimpse of something ridiculous and wonderful, a lion sneezing into a trumpet and an angel doubling over in laughter. You laugh too. You can't help it. It bubbles up from your chest like a spring long sealed shut, and the room responds. The light pulses brighter. The very walls seem to ripple with approval. Joy here is sacred currency. Some say heaven is a place of solemnity, of reverence and order. And yes, those things exist. But this hall reveals a deeper truth. Reverence includes laughter. Holy laughter. The kind that knows the whole story and laughs not in spite of sorrow, but through it. A doorway opens in the far side of the room and figures begin to emerge. Not people, not angels, but moments, embodied. A child dropping a communion wafer and whispering, "Oops, sorry, Jesus." A monk accidentally setting his robe on fire while lighting candles, then dancing barefoot to stomp it out. A woman laughing mid-prayer when her dog started snoring. A preacher trying to say Pharaoh and accidentally saying ferret. Each moment floats in and becomes part of the room's harmony. You realize now God remembers joy, even the small, silly, sleepy kind, and He treasures it. You look up and above laughter pours down like rain. It doesn't land on you, it lands in you. And you realize some of your own laughter has made it here too. Every time you chuckled after being afraid and realizing it was nothing. Every time you laughed at your own mistakes and forgave yourself anyway. Every time you surrendered a burden and the first emotion wasn't tears but relief. Heaven kept that sound and gave it a room. You wander deeper. In the middle of the hall is a strange device. Part fountain, part harp, part stained glass window. You don't know what it is until you step closer. It plays your memories of joy. You touch it, and scenes flash gently across its surface. You dancing in the kitchen with someone you loved. You laughing so hard you cried with your best friend at 1:12 a.m. You sneaking dessert when you weren't supposed to, and feeling pure victory. You standing in the rain and feeling completely, inexplicably free. The room applauds, not with hands, with light. It claps gently as if to say, "See, that mattered too." Then the music changes, deeper, slower, but no less joyful. And you realize something astonishing. Even Jesus laughed, and He still does. Not because He's forgotten the cross, but because He remembers what it saved. You catch a glimpse Him, laughing by a fire, surrounded by people who still didn't understand who He really was. Not mocking them, loving them, knowing one day they would laugh too, not from confusion, but from freedom. The light begins to dim now, not to end the joy, but to deepen it. This room doesn't want you to stay. It wants you to carry this with you, because there are still people on earth who believe joy is childish. That laughter has no place in the holy. You'll show them otherwise. You turn toward the far arch, and the walls shimmer with one final ripple of sound, a laughter so full, so gentle, it wraps you like a blanket. It's God's laugh, and it sounds like love that can't be contained anymore. You leave the room lighter. You leave it younger. And you realize heaven has no need for sorrow that forgets joy. Because laughter but is part of the liturgy. The laughter still clings to you soft and warm like light caught in your sleeves. But as you step through the next threshold, everything shifts again. The air sharpens, not in coldness, but in clarity. It's as if the atmosphere here is aware of you, measuring your breath, your pace, your wonder. The hallway ahead is arched, lined in domes of translucent crystal that gently pulse with light as you walk beneath them. Then, as the path curves, you arrive. A single room, circular, still. At its center, a dome overhead that mirrors the night sky. But the stars within it are not fixed. They move. And when you step closer, they move with you. Welcome to the map of every soul. At first, you think it's just a depiction of heaven's sky. But soon you realize it's far more. This is not a map of constellations. It's a living chart of lives. Each star pulses not with heat or helium, but with a name. And when you whisper softly a name you love, one of the stars pulses brighter. You say another name quietly, reverently. Another star flickers. It's not just tracking them, it's telling their story. The dome overhead reconfigures with every name you utter, forming new constellations, new alignments, paths that show not geography but grace. Each soul is a light, and each light has a movement, sometimes slow and unsure, sometimes darting joyful, wild. You call a name you haven't said in years. The star flickers once, then steadies, as if to say, I'm still here. You realize this is how heaven tracks us, not by coordinates, by connection. Some theologians speak of the Book of Life names, inscribed in divine ink, never erased. Others believe our names are written metaphorically, spiritually. But this room offers another truth. Heaven sings your name into orbit, and your light never goes out. The map turns gently now without your touch, as if it knows what you want to see. And then, in the very center of the dome, one star larger than the rest pulses with immense tenderness. You know before even speaking it, Jesus. But his star doesn't dominate. It draws. Every other light seems to orbit gently toward him, not pulled by force, but drawn by affection. And the closer a soul gets, the brighter it becomes, not because of purity, but because of proximity to love. And then you ask, half afraid, what about the ones who wander? The map doesn't answer with voice, it answers with motion. You see one small light dim and flickering, drifting far to the side. Alone. It doesn't disappear, it doesn't vanish. Instead, you watch as the lights closest to Jesus begin to shift one by one, moving not inward, but outward toward the lost light. Not to correct, to accompany, to be near. To say even out here you are not forgotten. And the farther out they go, the brighter the center becomes, as if every act of pursuit amplifies Christ's radiance. You feel your chest tighten, not in sorrow, but in awe. This map doesn't exist to track location. It exists to prove that no soul moves without heaven noticing, even yours. Even when you feel still, you look closer at one quadrant. There you see your own name, your star. It glows steadily. Not because you're flawless, but because even in your quietest nights, you've still reached for something more. And that reach, it lights up heaven. You whisper thank you, and the dome pulses once a soft golden hue blooming across the sky. The room doesn't require more. Your presence here is enough. But as you turn to leave, the stars shift one last time into a shape you recognize, a table. A reminder that all these lights they'll gather again one day, around a feast, with no hurry, with no goodbye. You exit the room under a sky that now feels like home. And in your spirit, one phrase settles in like a heartbeat. He sees where you are, he knows where you're going, and he's never lost track of you. The hall ahead feels slow, like time winding down for a deep breath. The echo of starlight from the dome still lingers behind you, but here in this corridor, it's not the stars that guide you, it's time itself. You step forward, and the air thickens, not in weight, but in presence. Every second feels accounted for. You can feel them brushing past your skin, not rushing, not lingering, just passing. Like monks, silent and faithful. This place is different, sacred in a way that doesn't speak, but watches. You've arrived at the room where time prays. It's not a room made for clocks. There are no ticking hands, no hourglasses spilling sand. There are only moments gently glowing, suspended midair. Hundreds of them. Some the size of pearls, others like lanterns. Each one a preserved second still praying. You move slowly between them and they shimmer as you pass. You reach out to touch one, a small moment floating just beside your shoulder. As your fingers graze it, you're flooded with sensation. A man stands beside his father's hospital bed holding a wrinkled hand and whispering, "I'm here. I'm not going anywhere." Then the moment fades, but its weight lingers. Not because it was long, but because it was sincere. You touch another. A child, eyes shut tight, says before sleep, "Please God, help Mom smile again." You realize this place is full of seconds like that. Seconds where someone paused, turned inward, upward, quietly, without audience, and prayed. Some theologians say, time belongs to earth. That in heaven past and future collapse into the eternal present. But this room suggests something deeper. Time doesn't disappear in heaven, it kneels. You come to the center of the room, and there, elevated slightly, is a wide stone table, circular, smooth, glowing from within. Around it, 12 empty chairs. You feel their presence, who they belong to. Not apostles, not prophets, ours. Each chair hums faintly with a tone like a bell too distant to fully hear. The 6th hour shimmers like morning sunlight. The 9th pulses like candlelight before midnight. And the 11th, that one vibrates with quiet urgency. You place your hand near its edge and it speaks to you not with words, but truth. Even near the end, there is always time to return. You sit, not on a chair, just on the floor beside the table, and the moments begin to circle you. They orbit like soft satellite seconds that most would overlook. A woman choosing not to respond with anger. A teenager whispering sorry under his breath after slamming a door. A man putting down his drink and turning on worship music instead. A grandmother blessing her food alone but smiling anyway. None of these moments made headlines, but they made heaven pause. Jesus enters, not loudly. He doesn't even walk. He arrives like a breeze you didn't notice until your hair moved. He doesn't sit. He kneels beside the table and places his hand on a moment floating nearby. A tear falls from his eye. He looks up, not at the moments, at you. He doesn't say it. But you know, you never wasted your time when you used it to love. Even the seconds you thought were lost have been praying this whole time. You rise, and the moments begin to drift upward, slowly returning to the temple's memory to rest. Time isn't done praying. It never is. You walk to the doorway, and as you do, a whisper catches you from behind. Spend your next minute well. You smile. You will. You step through the archway and feel the air still not in silence but anticipation. Something waits here. Not a person, not a voice, a scroll. The chamber you enter is modest in shape, octagonal, carved from a single piece of stone, smooth as water-polished glass. The walls rise with no seam, no break, and at the center rests a pedestal. Upon it, a scroll unlike any you've seen. It's sealed, but not with wax or thread. It's held closed by breath. Yes, breath. A shimmer surrounds it, invisible until you step closer and see the edges ripple as if the parchment is wrapped in air, caught mid-exhale. You instinctively hold your own breath, unsure whether disturbing it would scatter something sacred. This is the scroll Jesus hid. Not hidden out of secrecy, but timing. You approach carefully. And the closer you get, the more you begin to sense its weight, not physical, but eternal. This scroll is alive with the pulse of something unfinished. It doesn't demand to be read, it invites. Some believe the Lamb's Book of Life is the final scroll, the one that holds all names, all judgments. Others suggest there are scrolls of prophecy, of record, of praise. But this scroll, this one, feels different. It doesn't contain facts. It holds possibilities. You place your hand near it, and something opens, not the parchment, not yet, but your memory. Flashes come, moments in your life where you nearly turned left but chose right. where you almost gave up but breathed one more time instead, where you said yes before understanding the cost and found heaven waiting. You feel it in your bones. This scroll contains the what could have beens that still can be. Jesus didn't hide this scroll to keep it from us. He hid it because some things can only be revealed when we're ready to walk them. You touch the edge. The breath seal parts slowly, reverently, and the scroll unrolls with no sound. Inside, there's no ink, just light. It moves in patterns, swirls threads of gold and silver and pearl. They don't form words exactly, but direction, paths. You realize you're not reading this scroll, it's reading you, and showing you what heaven still dreams for your life. Not as fate, not as obligation, as invitation. You see something there, a city, a stranger, a moment where your kindness shifts the trajectory of someone's soul. You see another thread, a night of sorrow, where instead of collapsing, you turn your face to the sky and whisper, "Still, I trust you." Each thread leads to another. None of them are forced, but all of them are faithful. You begin to cry gently, not because you're overwhelmed, but because this scroll holds every moment God believed in you when you didn't believe in yourself. You reach for the bottom, but the scroll doesn't end. It unrolls past the edge of the pedestal, down the sides, onto the floor. It keeps going and going. And you understand this isn't a scroll you finish. This is one you step into. Jesus enters the room quiet, as always. He walks to your side and kneels with you. He doesn't speak, but he places one hand on the scroll, and the light within it glows warmer, as if comforted by his touch. He looks at you not with challenge, but with joy. You know what he's saying. There's still so much left to live. He presses one hand to your chest, and for a moment you feel your own breath wrap around you, just like the seal on the scroll. Your spirit has always carried the shape of something eternal. You rise, the scroll still open, still glowing. And as you step away, it doesn't close. It floats upward and returns to the air, waiting for the next person ready to be seen. You leave the chamber not with instructions, but with possibilities swirling in your chest. You are no longer asking, "What is my purpose?" You are now whispering, "What could we create together?" Lord, the scroll vanishes behind you, but its message has already been written inside you. The air shifts again, quieter than breath. You step forward through a narrow stone arch, and what greets you isn't a grand room or glowing hall, but something smaller, simpler, a chamber carved in stillness. The walls are soft gray, streaked faintly with gold, like veins under skin. Light seeps in from somewhere unseen, warm and low, and resting in the center, as if left behind by someone who never meant to return, is a long, narrow bench of olive wood. This is the chamber of Jesus' hidden scars. You know this before anyone tells you, before you sit, before the silence wraps around your shoulders like a familiar robe, because you feel them, not wounds, not suffering, but something deeper, something after. The world saw the 5, the nails, the spear, the thorned crown's mark, but not all the pain bleeds. Some pain remains invisible until you look closely enough. You walk slowly to the bench, sit down, and feel it immediately, a memory, not yours. A body curled in darkness, shaking from weariness, not fear. Jesus, not on a cross, not before a crowd, but alone after resurrection, still carrying the ache of humanity in his bones. Not weakness, but a holy echo. Some theologians teach that Jesus' scars are eternal proof of love, that he chose to keep them as a testimony. But others wonder, are there more than we were shown? This room gently answers yes, not more visible ones, but buried ones. You look at the bench beside you, and suddenly you see them, one by one, imprints, faint, like shadows that light never erased, not injuries, moments. A tension behind the shoulders where he bore the burden of knowing Judas kissed him and meant it. A press against the side where he felt the weight of Peter's denial echo 3 times in his ribs. A line across the brow, not from thorns, but from sleepless nights, watching the people he loved turn their hearts to stone. You press your hand gently to the wood. and feel something surge up through your palm, a memory of Jesus staying behind after healing a crowd just to sit in the dust where someone had wept. Not because he had to, because he wanted to. You whisper without meaning to. Why did you keep these? And the silence answers, not with logic, with love. Because scars are proof that something tried to break you and failed. And his scars, they sing, not of trauma, but of triumph without boasting. You notice now faint images carved along the bench, not artistically, not stylized, just there. A door frame, a basin of water, a loaf of bread broken in half. And finally, an open hand, palm up, scar faint, but pulsing. You close your eyes and remember all the things you've tried to hide, the unspoken griefs, the quiet regrets, the guilt that didn't leave just because the world moved on. And you hear him whisper so softly it feels like a thought. Show me your hidden scars. I'll show you what I did with mine. Tears fill your eyes, but they don't fall. Not yet, because something stronger rises first. Peace. Peace not from forgetting, but from finally being seen. You lean back on the bench, and it holds you, not just physically, spiritually. Like someone once sat here thinking of you, like he did. You stay there longer than you planned, and when you finally rise, you notice something new, a faint warmth in your own palms. Not pain, not stigmata, just empathy. You walk toward the exit of the chamber, and as you do, one more scar reveals itself not on a wall or bench, but in the air. It shimmers gently, a heartbeat of sorrow, a memory of mercy. It lingers like the smell of rain on dry earth, and it follows you, not to haunt, but to heal. Because heaven does not erase what hurt you, it sanctifies it. You walk forward carrying something quieter now, the laughter, the scroll, the scars. All of it weaves inside you like a second heartbeat. But the air ahead feels different, stilled, but not in peace. It's the hush of something held, for longer than it was ever meant to be. You step into a chamber unlike any before. No walls, no floor, no ceiling, just presence. And in the center of it, a moment, frozen in time, glowing faintly like the last ember of a dying fire. You've entered the moment that never passed. It hovers in midair, suspended not by magic, but by memory too sacred to let go. A moment you know immediately, not just as history, but as a wound in the timeline of all creation. Jesus, in Gethsemane, again, but not reenacted, still happening. He's kneeling, face pressed to the earth, breath uneven. His words are barely audible yet thunderous in meaning. Father, if it be possible, and you know, this is not a flashback. This is alive. Some believe eternity folds all time inward, and that with God the past and future exist simultaneously. Others imagine this moment as long past, completed in full. But in this room, you feel the truth settle into your bones like a secret whispered by God himself. This choice is eternal. Jesus didn't just make it once, he makes it still. Every time you question your worth. Every time love costs more than comfort. Every time grace feels heavier than guilt. He kneels again, not in weakness, but in unfathomable devotion. And in that kneeling is a power so vast, the angels outside this room cannot enter. They wait at the threshold. Because even they cannot bear witness to this part of his heart. You step closer, but your feet don't move. They can't. The room won't let you take this lightly, so instead you stay still and let the moment come to you. And it does. It brushes against your skin, your memory, your oldest pain. It sees everything, and still it says, nevertheless. You feel something break open inside you. Not pain, not even healing, just understanding. This was the moment heaven held its breath, and earth waited in silence, and hell hoped, just for a second, that maybe he wouldn't, but he did, and he still does. You look into his face, not through visions, not through memory. You see him, sweat like blood, eyes full of resolve so deep it makes the stars look fickle, and you realize this wasn't the moment before the cross. This was the cross. The choice to stay, to surrender, to love you anyway. A tear finally slips down your cheek, and something stirs in the chamber. The moment pulses gently like it heard your heart crack and welcomed it. Jesus doesn't look up, but he feels you, and in his stillness he says what only heaven can say without words. If I had to choose again, I'd still choose you. You fall to your knees not because of guilt, because of glory, because there's no greater majesty than mercy so fierce it would kneel into death and never stop choosing life for someone else. The moment begins to dim now, not because it ends, but because it settles back into eternity, still burning, still whispering, still becoming. You stand slowly. Light gathers in the distance, inviting you onward. You take one last glance at the moment, and you don't say thank you, because it already knows. It always knew. And as you walk away, one phrase echoes behind you like a vow that time could never silence. Still, not my will, but yours. The next corridor curves softly like a river turning without needing to know why. You walk slowly as if part of you still lingers in the moment behind you where he knelt, where the choice echoed through eternity. But now everything feels hushed again, not silent, just waiting. You round a bend, and what you see next steals the breath from your chest. A wide, circular space, plain stone, dimly lit, but it's what stands still within it that halts you. A long row of figures, 10, 12, maybe more, all seated, still, eyes open, hands folded. Some are cloaked in linen, others in garments of ancient design. You recognize none of their faces, but somehow know them deeply. They are the prophets, and they are waiting. This is the room where the prophets wait in silence. You step inside, and the chamber does not stir. The light does not shift. The figures do not acknowledge you, not out of rudeness, but reverence, because they are not here for you. They are here for him, and in a way they always have been. You walk slowly past them, taking in their faces. None are smiling, none are frowning. They simply wait with eyes so focused it's as if they are still looking toward something that hasn't happened yet. Even here in heaven. One of them, older than time in the face but young in spirit, tilts his head slightly. It's Elijah. He doesn't speak, but you feel him asking, "Can you be quiet long enough to listen?" You try. The room offers no prophecy, no thunder, no revelation, only stillness. And the longer you remain in it, the more you begin to feel a pressure not heavy, but solemn. A weight of words unsaid, not because they were forgotten, but because they were too sacred to speak aloud until the right soul came to listen. You kneel. You don't know why exactly, but it feels right. As you bow your head, something shifts gently in the atmosphere. A soft breath like wind returning to a page long left unturned. And then, a sound. So faint, so small, it feels like it comes from inside your spirit rather than from the room itself. A single line. The word has become flesh. Again, you feel a rush of understanding. These prophets, they're not waiting for Jesus to arrive. They're waiting for us to remember. They were always looking forward to the one who would come. Now they look forward to everyone who follows him home. You rise slowly, and for the first time, one of them speaks, not aloud, but directly into your chest. A woman, her robe frayed at the edges, her hands marked by ink and age. You know her name without being told: Anna, the prophetess. She says some prophecies are not spoken, they are lived. You blink, and she is still again. You walk toward the far side of the room where the light is dimmest. And there, resting on a stone seat of its own, is a scroll that hasn't opened yet. You feel something magnetic pulling at your ribs, like your spirit knows this moment was coming. You step close, and on its cover your name. You hesitate, not from fear, from awe, because in this room even a whisper would echo forever. You reach for the scroll, and just before you touch it, another whisper flows through you. You're not here to be told the future. You're here to realize you've been fulfilling prophecy all along. You touch the scroll. It doesn't open. It doesn't need to, because the truth it carries isn't written in words. It's written in willingness, yours. The willingness to keep walking, keep listening, keep loving even when you don't yet understand how your story fits into the greater one. You bow your head again, not because you were told to, but because the prophets deserve it. They are not statues. They are servants who have become part of the foundation, and you are now one of the living verses being written above them. You walk to the next threshold, and behind you a soft wind stirs, not loud, but approving. You never imagined silence could feel like applause. The chamber narrows again, and the temperature shifts, not colder, not warmer, just stranger. The very air carries a tension, not of danger, of invitation, the kind that doesn't raise your guard but your wonder. Ahead, you see light flickering, not the golden warmth you've come to expect. This light dances. It wavers like candlelight caught between wind and worship. And then you see it. A fire. Tall, unmoving. It blazes but produces no heat, no smoke, no smell, just presence. You've reached the fire that doesn't burn. You step closer, not cautiously, but drawn. Because this is no ordinary flame. It recognizes you. It sways toward you slightly, as if glad you've arrived, as if it's been waiting to meet you your whole life. You pause only a breath away. It doesn't flicker like a normal fire. It pulses with purpose, with memory. This is the same kind of fire that appeared to Moses in the desert when God first called a man from exile to lead captives home. Only now, it burns not from a bush. It burns from choice. Some theologians say the fire on Mount Sinai was judgment and the fire at Pentecost was power. But this flame offers a different truth. This fire is not to consume. It is to reveal. You step into it, not beside it, into. And it welcomes you. No pain, just clarity. The room disappears. And suddenly it's just you surrounded by holy flame. And in the flame scenes, not visions, reflections. You standing at a crossroads, you barely remember choosing forgiveness instead of pride. You trembling on the bathroom floor, whispering, "Please help." You sitting with someone in their grief, saying nothing and doing everything. The fire is showing you the times you were already burning with compassion, with honesty, with conviction. You expected judgment. But instead the flame says, "This is what I saw." You feel yourself melt, not from heat, but from relief. Because all the times you thought no one noticed, heaven did. This fire doesn't erase your past, it redeems it. You look down, your hands glow faintly in the light, not scorched, but changed. You stretch your arms wider, and the fire responds, expanding. It flickers once, then stills, and from within its heart you see another figure, Jesus, walking inside it, not untouched, embraced. He moves slowly toward you. His robes don't catch, his skin doesn't flinch. And when he speaks, it isn't thunder. It's like hearing a lullaby through your ribcage. I was always in the fire with you. Tears fall. They vanish before reaching the ground. He steps closer, close enough to see his eyes through the flame. They shine with the kind of gentleness that could hold all of time. He lifts a hand toward your chest, doesn't touch, just waits. And you feel it. The things inside you that were never yours to carry. Guilt, false identities, inherited shame. And the fire begins to lift them, not violently, like threads being unstitched by grace. You exhale and feel light enough to float. He doesn't need to say, "You're free now," you know. The fire softens and you step out, not wet, not cleansed, refined. You turn back, expecting the flame to shrink or fade, but it remains. Because the fire was never about what you saw. It was about what saw you. You walk to the next doorway, one carved not from stone, but from light turned gentle. And behind you the flame whispers one final thing, not with smoke, but with sacred certainty. Nothing born of love is ever consumed. You step beyond the fire, and the warmth fades, not lost, just absorbed into you now. The light behind you dims like a candle, gently snuffed after prayer, and the path ahead glows soft and blue, like moonlight on quiet water. You walk, and soon you hear something barely audible at first. A murmur, a breath, a whisper, and then you realize it's words. thousands of them, all unspoken. You've entered the room of unfinished prayers. The chamber opens slowly, as if reluctant to reveal too much too quickly. You step inside and are surrounded by what can only be described as suspended phrases. They hang midair like smoke trails frozen in time. Not all of them are full sentences. Some are fragments. Some are questions without punctuation. Some are just a name spoken once into the dark by someone who didn't think heaven was listening, but heaven was. Each phrase glows faintly, its intensity tied not to its eloquence, but to its earnestness. You reach out to one. It curls toward your fingers like a bird landing gently on an open hand. You hear it in your mind as clearly as if it had just been spoken. God, I don't know how to come back. You feel your breath catch, because you remember that prayer. Or maybe it wasn't yours. But somehow, it could have been. You step farther in, and the air begins to shimmer with more words. I know you're there. I just don't know if I matter. Please, just one more day. Help my mom. Don't help me. Just her. If you're real, let me feel something, anything. None of these prayers ended in amen. And that's why they're here. Because heaven doesn't throw away unfinished things. Some scholars say prayers must be complete to reach God. Others believe any utterance, even a cry, can become sacred. But this room reveals a deeper truth. Every incomplete prayer is finished by God's compassion. Even silence can be intercession. You look up, and above you, the room swirls with whispers like wind moving through cathedral rafters. You don't hear distinct words, just longing echoing upward, like incense from lives still wrestling with belief. Then something shifts. The room dims, and in the middle of the space, a circle begins to glow. Slowly, you step toward it. Inside the circle, a single flickering phrase. You kneel, and it reveals itself. I wanted to love you, but I didn't know how. The light around it intensifies for a moment, then fades, not in shame, in acceptance. You bow your head, and the whisper rises not from the air, but from within your spirit. That was enough. You begin to understand now. This room isn't a collection of failures, it's a choir of beginnings. Jesus steps into the space, not from a door, from the silence itself. He moves slowly, arms folded, robes soft, face solemn but not sorrowful. He reaches out to a single phrase and breathes on it. It completes. You don't see how, you just know it does. And then another, and you feel it. He finishes every prayer you couldn't, not by guessing your intent, by knowing your heart. He walks past you, pauses just once to place his hand on your shoulder, and in that touch, you remember every moment you thought your words weren't worthy, every time you bit back a prayer because it felt messy or selfish or too broken to be heard. He knew all of them. He kept all of them, and he's still answering them even now. As he vanishes gently into the quiet again, the phrases begin to dim, not erased, just tucked away, as if filed into the folds of God's robe. You stand. The words around you begin to settle. A final whisper follows you to the door. The prayers you forgot, heaven remembered. You smile. You whisper your own unfinished prayer right then and there. Keep me close even when I drift. And the room glows faintly in reply. You pass into a dimmer hall now where even the light feels like it's holding its breath. The atmosphere tightens, not in fear, but in reverence. You know without being told this next threshold is sacred in a way words cannot quite reach. There is no sound, no visible motion, just a long pathway at the end of which stands a singular structure, the gate of divine decision. It doesn't look imposing. In fact, it looks ordinary. A wide arch carved from smooth white stone set within walls that shimmer faintly like the inside of a pearl. There's no handle, no hinges, just space open and waiting. But you don't walk through it yet, because standing just before it, Jesus, not sitting, not welcoming, not beckoning, waiting. He stands with his back to the gate, his face toward you, and his eyes, those uncontainable oceans, are searching you. not with scrutiny, with clarity. This is the moment. This is where he makes a decision. Not about your salvation, not about your worth, but about how he will carry you forward. You slow to a stop, feet unsure, breath uneven. And then he speaks. Not thunder. Just soft, low words that shake your ribs. You're ready for what comes next. You blink, startled. Not because you didn't want to hear it, because you never thought you'd be ready. He steps closer, slowly, deliberately, and with every step the air bends like space itself yields to him. Then he stops, just a foot from you, and says, "But I won't decide alone." You look at him confused. Isn't this his gate? Isn't this his temple? Shouldn't he decide everything? He smiles, a quiet, glowing curve of the mouth that holds galaxies, and you hear him again, not with your ears, but within your spirit. "I've already chosen you. Now you choose what to do with that." The gate shimmers behind him, its shape shifting slightly, not physically, but symbolically. It becomes whatever you most need it to be. A bridge, a door, a birth canal, a threshold, an invitation. Jesus steps to the side now, giving you full view. And still, he doesn't push. He doesn't pull. He just waits. This is not about heaven or hell. It's about calling, about trust, about what you will carry when you leave this sacred place. You step forward slowly, one hand brushing the edge of the gate. Immediately, you see flashes, not of glory, of need. A friend who smiles but is aching. A stranger who will hear your words one day and change directions. A prayer you haven't prayed yet that will open a door in someone else's life. A moment of weakness that will lead to a deeper kind of strength, not just for you, but for others. This isn't a gate to escape through. It's a gate to re-enter the world with new eyes. You look back at Jesus. He nods once, as if to say, "Whatever you choose, I'm still with you." You speak aloud. Just 3 words. They feel small in your mouth, but thunder in the chamber. "Let's do this." The gate opens, not by swinging, not by sliding. It simply becomes walkable. Jesus walks beside you now, but not ahead, with you. And as you step through, you feel something settle over your shoulders, a mantle of quiet glory, not to exalt you, to remind you you've been chosen. And now, you've chosen back. Behind you, the gate closes with no sound, and ahead, you sense something even deeper awakening. The final steps of this journey are drawing near. But first, there is a song waiting, and a listener you've forgotten to find. The floor beneath your feet softens as you walk, stone fading into something more like air, made solid. Your steps become lighter, not because the ground has changed, but because you have. You're no longer walking as someone searching. You're walking as someone becoming. The corridor curves gently into a space bathed in the faintest light you've ever seen. Not golden, not white. Something between silver and sleep. It feels like a thought you once had in a dream. You've entered the room of the song. God wrote for one listener. It's empty. No throne, no choir, no cymbals, just you. And in the air, silence that wants to sing. You move to the center. There is no prompt, no altar, no screen. But suddenly you hear it. One note, hanging in the air. Perfect, delicate, personal. It vibrates inside your chest like a tuning fork struck by the hand of God. Then another note. Then another, not music for the world, not worship for the heavens, a song for one soul, yours. And it is so deeply you, it makes your knees tremble. You've heard fragments of it your whole life, in the quiet between your sobs, in the laugh that escaped during mourning, in the wind that touched your cheek on a day you didn't think you could go on. But this is the whole song, at last. And it's not sung by angels, it's sung by God himself. Some say God speaks, others say he sings. But here you understand sometimes he does both at once. And the words, they aren't in any known language, but you understand them all the same, because they're written in the dialect of your being. You are hearing your true name, not the one on your passport, the one he gave you when he thought you into existence. The song wraps around you now, soft as wool, bright as breath. It recalls things you didn't know he'd seen. That time you held your tongue instead of snapping back. The time you showed up when it was awkward and hard. The time you let yourself hope again, even when it hurt. Each of those moments becomes a chord, rich and full. And in between the notes, there's a hum that isn't melody, it's presence. He is here. God. Not in the form of a blinding light, not as a booming voice from the mountaintop, but as the composer smiling at his favorite piece of music, you. And then the song pauses, just for a moment, and you hear it, a breath. Yours, no, his, the one he took when he first imagined you. And now, it exhales into eternity. You whisper, you made this just for me. The song answers not with more lyrics, but with memory. I've been humming it since before there were stars. Tears fall freely now, not from sadness, from the sheer weight of being known, completely, creatively, lovingly. And then as softly as it began, the song drifts into silence, not ending, just resting like a final note held too sacred to release. And across the room a figure stirs, not stepping from shadow, but from the very melody itself. Jesus. He walks toward you but says nothing. Instead, he listens. To you. Not to your voice. To your being. He leans close and whispers, "Your life sings more than you think it does." Then he steps aside and points to the next room. You turn once more to hear the song behind you. But it's gone. Not because it ended, because it went with you. And the next time you hear music that brings you to tears for reasons you can't explain, you'll remember. That was part of your song, and heaven was listening. The next room isn't far, but you feel it before you see it. Something weighty, but not heavy. Like the feeling just before a secret is revealed, not to shock, but to restore. You step forward through a soft archway, and what lies beyond takes your breath, because this place is quiet, not silent, not sacred in the dramatic sense, just deeply, simply final. You're standing in the final room Jesus touched. It looks plain, almost too plain. Soft stone floors, a low ceiling, light spilling in from nowhere you can name. There's no throne, no altar, no singing angels or golden vessels, only a single wooden table. Old, familiar, and beside it a chair, pushed in, as if someone stood up just moments ago. The air here is still warm from his presence. And on the table, not scrolls, not a crown, not even bread, just a key, small, silver, resting in the center of the table. You approach slowly, reverently. You don't touch it, not yet. Because first you notice what's carved into the tabletop. I left this for you. No signature, but none needed. It's his handwriting. You feel it in your chest. You sit. The chair fits you perfectly, and you realize this room was always meant for this moment. It's not grand because it doesn't need to be. This is the room where Jesus finished what he came to do, and left space for you to begin. Some say when Jesus ascended, he left earth behind. Others say he remained in spirit. But this room whispers something deeper. He didn't leave us a throne to sit on. He left us a table to return to. You finally reach out and pick up the key. It feels warm in your hand, not because it's magical, but because it's been held. Often, carefully, willingly, and now entrusted. You look back at the table and something begins to form in the air above it. Not an image, not a hologram, a memory of Jesus touching this very room, not with power, with love. You see him sitting here, elbows on the table, head in hands, not burdened, just quiet. Then you see what he left behind, not instructions, not titles, not expectations, but a choice. The same choice he made in every room of this temple, to love, to forgive, to kneel, to listen, to go when no one followed. You clutch the key and understand. This is not a key to unlock a door. It's the key to unlock you. All that's needed now is your yes. Jesus appears again, not walking, just present, as if he never fully left this space. He looks at you, not from across the table, but beside you. You feel his gaze settle like sunlight, and he says simply, "There's one more thing I need to show you." You nod, You're ready. He reaches out, not for the key, for your hand. You give it freely, and he holds it not with strength, but with history, because he was there for all of it. And now, he walks with you for what comes next. As you both rise, the table fades, not gone, just waiting for the next soul to sit here. You step through the far passage, and the key in your hand, still warm, still yours. Still unlocking something in you the world hasn't seen yet, but heaven always has. The final corridor stretches ahead, long and dim like the soft inhale before a goodbye. Jesus walks beside you, not speaking, not rushing, just with you. There's no need for words now. The silence between you is full of understanding, of memory, of love that's already been proved 1,000 ways. Up ahead, a curtain hangs from the ceiling to the floor. It doesn't glow, it doesn't shimmer. It simply moves slowly like it's breathing. This is the curtain of breath, the exit, but not a door, not a wall, not even a barrier. It's made from something softer, more personal. When you draw near, you see what it truly is, woven not from fabric, but from every breath you've ever offered in trust. Every time you sighed in surrender, every time you whispered help into the dark, every moment you paused and dared to hope again. It's all here, layered into a single veil, transparent, pulsing gently, and behind it, you feel the world again, not as it was when you left, as it is now with you changed, carrying something sacred. You stop just before it. Jesus turns to face you. His eyes are soft but serious, and he says, "You never walked this alone." You nod, you know. He continues, "This temple isn't behind you, it's in you now." You glance at the curtain. It wavers slightly as if listening. Jesus steps forward just once and places a hand over your heart. His palm glows faintly like the warmth of dawn before the sun appears. You feel something settle into your spirit. A quiet commission, not a task, a presence. And then he smiles. The kind that says, "I'll see you again soon." And just like that, he steps back, not vanishing, just becoming part of the stillness again. You face the curtain. And when you breathe in, it breathes with you. You step forward and through. There's no resistance, only remembrance. The veil parts like mist kissed by morning wind, and as you walk into it, something remarkable happens. You feel the entire temple move with you, not closing behind, but walking with you. A thought brushes across your soul. What entered as wonder now leaves as wisdom. And when you emerge fully, the atmosphere is different, lighter, but not because you left heaven behind, because heaven stayed. Somewhere inside you now is a pillar that still whispers, a mirror that still sees, a garden that still remembers, a song that still sings, a scroll that's still writing, and the footprints you followed, they now follow you, because you've become part of the path. You look back one last glance, but there's no need. Because the temple is no longer a destination, it's a dwelling, a home you carry in your chest. The breath around you steadies, and so does the world, only now. You carry the sacred with you quietly, in every word, every silence, every choice. Jesus' final step in the temple became your first step back into the world, and nothing will ever be quite the same. You walk now with a weightless gravity, your spirit adjusted to the quiet glory that lives within you. The veil has parted, but the journey isn't quite over, not until you've passed through the final passage. It opens without announcement, a room shaped not by walls, but by remembrance. You step inside and feel it instantly. This is the archive of all you've become, and it's breathtaking. There are no shelves, no books, no screens, just light billowing columns of it spiraling up and around like memory given form. They don't flicker. They pulse in rhythm with something sacred. You walk slowly between them, and each column tells a story, your story, but not in words, in echoes. One shimmer recalls the moment you forgave without receiving an apology. Another hums with the courage you showed in staying soft after being hurt. Another carries the tone of your laughter on a day you almost didn't get out of bed. Each one a victory. Heaven counted even when you didn't. A whisper flows through the space like soft wind stirring silk. We kept it all. You pause, overcome. This is not judgment. This is joyful record. Heaven did not lose track of a single holy moment in your story, not even the ones you forgot yourself. The next column glows deeper. You step closer and feel it shift. It shows not what you did, but what you endured. The heartbreak you didn't let harden you. The loss you turned into tenderness for others. The shame you chose to give to God rather than carry alone. The light responds not with praise, but with presence. Jesus appears again, not ahead of you, beside you. He looks at the glowing column and says softly, "I was proud of you here." You blink through tears. You whisper, "I didn't feel strong then," and he responds without hesitation, "You didn't have to feel strong. You just had to keep going." You turn slowly, and now you see one final beam of light in the center of the room. It's different, not reflective, anticipatory. You approach, and before you can wonder, the light projects outward and reveals the person you are still becoming. It's not a prediction, not a demand, just a glimpse of possibility, a version of you that's been growing slowly like a tree in secret, watered by all the faithfulness you didn't think was working. You smile, not because you see perfection, but because you see hope. Jesus places a hand on your shoulder again. You turn to him, and he says, "This is what I saw when I called you mine. You don't speak. There's nothing to say." Just a silence that feels like peace, finally finding a place to rest. You turn to leave the room, and the archives dim behind you, not erased, just completed. And in your hands, a new scroll begins to form, light curling inward, writing itself in real time. It doesn't need ink. You are the ink now. You cross the final threshold of the archive, and Jesus walks with you. You feel the wind shift, time bending gently, and ahead, a final space opens. One last gift before sleep. The wind down awaits, and it begins with stillness. The final room opens not with grandeur, but with stillness so complete it feels like a soft hand placed on your shoulder from behind. You step inside, and the world pauses. This is not a place to learn or witness or explore. This is a place to rest. You've reached the sanctuary of settling light. The space is open, no walls, no floor, no sky. Just a field of light so gentle it feels like walking on a breath. Everything here is soft, the color, the silence, the hush inside your own chest. You feel your pulse slow, your thoughts quiet, and for the first time, you don't need to understand anything, you just are. And that is enough. Jesus is here. But he doesn't speak. He lies beside you, yes, rests, eyes closed, peaceful. Because even the Savior of all things understands the holiness of stillness. You sit together in the quiet shoulder to shoulder. There is no need for any more visions, no more symbols, no more signs, just presence. You breathe in and feel the air settle into your bones like light made liquid. 1,000 memories from this journey swirl softly in your chest. The pillar, the scroll, the scars, the garden, the key, the song. Each of them no longer external. They now live inside you. Jesus opens his eyes just once and smiles, not as a teacher or king or redeemer, but as a friend. And then the wind down begins. You lie back slowly. The light above you fades into a soft swirl, blue, gold, silver, like heaven remembering a lullaby. You feel your limbs grow heavy, but your heart light. As you breathe out, your body unwinds, one thread at a time. All the noise of earth fades, all the tasks left unfinished pause, all the questions sleep, and in their place, a quiet certainty that you are known and safe. You hear a sound in the distance, not music, not voice, just the hum of divine stillness, a heartbeat far older than the stars. God is not rushing. He is resting with you. The chamber narrows to a soft horizon like dawn easing over a distant field. You let your eyes close. The breath of heaven cradles you, and the final image left in your mind is simple, a hand in yours, never letting go. Even as dreams arrive, the temple fades, the stories settle, and you, finally, drift. End of script. Sweet dreams.